te puehu, o papatua nuku, e tapotone. Kia papapapapau damu, te moana. Kia ora te marino, ki Aotearoa. Ie ui e, hae ki he. Kia ora te marino, ki te ao katoa. Haumi e ui e, hae ki he. Kia ino i tātou, kia tauihoa no te tauwhirotango te wāhi ngaro. He pai ai te noho tahi a tina nā wairua hoki. Werohia te manawa ki ngā mātāpono a kui mā koroma te pono, te tika me te aroha kia whakamaua kia tīna. Haumi e hui e. Nore tai mā e te tī, e te tā, e tātou kua whakarau i ka mai ki runga nui tēnei whare wānanga o tātou te wānanga aronui o Tāmaki Makaurau. Nei rā mātou e mehi nei, e tangi nei, nau mai, hare mai, whakatau mai rā. Me ngā tini aitua kei runga ki tēnā o koutou, o tātou, haere ngā mate, haere atu rā, moi mai rā, oki atu ai, hoatu. Rātou ki a rātou apiti hono tātou te hungora ki a tātou. Nō reira e ngā maunga whakahi, e ngā moana puke, e tātou mā hoki mai, e tātou mā nau mai, e tātou mā piki mai, kake mai, kia mātou. Me o mātou whānau mai ngā mautere o te moana nui a Kiwa, talofa lava, kia orana, whakalofa lahi atu, welcome friends, ni sabola, maolole lei, aloha, i orana, kia ora, tēnā koutou, katoa. Neira te mihi ki ngā rangatira, e kōrero nei ki a tātou, e whāreki hia, ngā kaupapa, ngā kōrero, whakamārama ki te tini, ki te mano, e mihi ana ki a koutou. Mi o koutou whakapapa, mi o koutou pepeha, mi o koutou katoa. Kua rahi mātou i a koutou, hoi no e mihi ana ki a koutou katoa. Tātu rā, ki a koutou katoa i aku rangatira, anau mā, e mihi ana ki tēnei tikinga o a tātou tupuna, arā ko tēnei o ngā kaupapa e whakahuihui nei tātou i runga nui tēnei whāreki nei. Nō reira mihi ana ki a koutou katoa. Hoi no e tātou mā, e mihi nei, e tangi nei, tēnā koutou. Ka huri au ki te reo, tuatahi aku o taku krani mā, o me taku krani pāpā no Hull, England. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Kia ora. Kia ora. Ka pai, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Valen Smith tōku ingoa, my name is Valen Smith, or Dr. Valen Smith, I must say that. I was called out once about 10 years ago. I was just saying, oh, don't call me doctor, and then Hariata. If anyone knows Hariata from the Māori Liaison Services, she goes, excuse me, you're a doctor, you represent all of us up there, so just understanding that we're a part of a wider community. So my name is Dr. Valen Smith, welcoming all of our whānau. Indeed, our whānau, in particular, of which we're a part of in terms of our wider communities. And the reason why I mention Hariata in terms of I represent our wider community, we at AUT also represent our wider communities. Essentially, whanaungatanga is boiled down to two key questions. Who are we and why are we important to one another? And so who are we? We are AUT, we are Te Wānanga Aronui o Tāmaki Makaurau. Aronui is to deeply understand. And Wānanga, a place where we can come together and have courageous discussions. Where? In the location of Tāmaki Makaurau. And so how we might meaningfully have and continue meaningful, deep understanding discussions is by responding to the needs of our communities of which you all serve. And of which we serve and which we are a part of. So where you're from, your communities, industry, business, aha ko Kauai, aha ko Nohia, whoever you may be, welcome. For many of us, welcome back to our university, the Auckland University of Transformation. And for any transformation that needs to be had, we need to have robust, deep conversations of kaupapa and things that are very present and impactful, not only for ourselves as a university, but for our students and for our communities. And that can only happen without a wonderful panel. So I'd like to acknowledge our panel, but also let not the responsibility of this robust discussion sit solely upon the shoulders of our panel. Ka pai? We need engagement. Is there Q&A? There is Q&A, whānau. So there is Q&A. So get your questions ready as well, because this will deepen the conversation even further. I'd like to acknowledge our whānau, anō mā, e mihi ana ki a koutou, for providing this very special part of our ceremony, which is essentially whakawhanaungatanga. Again, welcoming everyone on behalf of our university, Auckland University of Technology. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. And before I ask our whānau choir to sing my last song, we practice at 5:30 every Wednesdays up at the marae, a shameful or unashameful plug for one of our whānau, not only in AUT, but our wider communities would like to join us, 5:30 to 7, and here we go. Toru whā. Me te whakapono, te tino puawai, ko te aroha, hei whakawhanaunga ia tātou katoa. Unu ia i te rito, o te harakeke, kei ara ia te komako e. Mau e ui mai, he aha te mea pai, maku e ki atu, he tangata. Tēnā koutou katoa, akurau rangatira. E karama e kuima rangatahi e. Hakongia tō tātou reo rangatira, nā te atua e. Taka mai ki ngā tepuna, hei o haki ki ngā whakatupuranga. Mō ake tonu atu, taku reo rangatira. Taku reo tangi mihi waiata, me te whai kōrero. Taku reo poroporo, ki te hua whanaro e. Taku reo, taku kaha, taku rara, tiki te whānau Māori e. Homoi te paki paki.
Kia ora. Whakanga i he ngahi whakatapu ko Sai, tau kamata. Awe ia maa Dan te whenua woka. Ngāti rua nui, tangahoi, ngā ruahine, ngāti kāhu, ngunu ki wairoa, ronga mai wāhine, ngāti te atiawa, mania poto, ngāti tū haurangi, ngāti Pākehā.
Kawa kuo heka.
Awe ia maa he moen ma Callum. Ngāti tū wharetoa, ngāti mania poto, ngāti rua kawa ki te tonga, te ati haunui a pāpārangi.
Kawa kuo heka.
Awe ia maa Lisa Tai, ha ihi matu otuma and savu fisi.
Kawa kuo heka.
Awe ia maa Johansson Miller, leulu moenga nofa li'i, lepa whalewha, haa moa.
Kawa kuo heka.
Awe ia maa Rachael Marsters, Halalotonga. There's a saying in our, across the Moana, Oceania, that kava is the drink of the gods. Because kava does not self-propagate, in order to get kava where you're living, you have to actually take it and plant it. So before the arrival of the early indigenous people of the region, there's a belief that the atua or the otua, the gods, were looking after the kava and nurturing it. So the kava was passed on as a gift to the people when they arrived. And as the panellists just take part in the consuming of the kava, one, we acknowledge the mana and the spiritual power of the kava and the infusion of this mana into the Talanoa today. Two, in the sharing of the kava amongst the panel, we recognize and uphold the principles of unity, neutrality, and equality in the time that we're coming together here as a collective today. We may have entered as the positions we hold in our communities, families, in our workplace, but in this space right here, right now, Wednesday, 27th of September 2023, we move as a collective with the purpose of uplifting and encouraging our Māori and Pacific people, as well as every other ethnicity that's represented here in the room. And last but not least, we acknowledge Ngāti Whātua, Mana Whenua, and the sacred land of Aotearoa. And also just highlight, I think really quickly, some work that Dr. Aporosa and Dr. Ford have been doing on the relationship of Māori and kava. And that's talking to Māori, using their voices, and drawing on what was that relationship pre-colonial times, what was that practice, what was that cultural practice like. So it's amazing to see us all in the room here tonight, just being able to continue that relationship. So if there's anything that we've said, I'm just going to ask for forgiveness now. If there's anything that's been done incorrectly, forgive us now, please. So goia peki lea no, and as we enter the space and the Talanoa as equals, with respect, with neutrality, with mutual, just collective coming together, it's a safe space, we can start that Talanoa. Ofa atu.
Sis, kia ora tātou katoto e teia pō. It's great to see so many of you here tonight. My name is Rachael Marsters and I'm an Industry Relationship Manager within the Careers and Employability team here at AUT, and tonight I will be facilitating the Talanoa. Just to set the scene, I know we're in a lounge, but the purpose of this evening is to bring together a group of professionals to kōrero on the significance and the value of Māori and Pacific viewpoints in shaping a well-rounded business landscape. Following this, as mentioned, there will be an opportunity for Q&A that will be facilitated by my girl, Anau Misui Henry, and we will open this up to the floor. So I'm super excited to introduce you to our panel tonight. Our first panellist is Dan Te Whenua Walker, Senior Channel Sales Manager at Microsoft. Then we have Hermione McCallum, Principal Advisor Te Rautaki Māori at Kāinga Ora, Lisa Tai, Partner and Director of Pass PO at Deloitte, and Hanson Miller, Senior Wholesale Product Specialist at Westpac. So I suppose I've introduced everybody quite sort of briefly, probably what you will see on their email signature or on their LinkedIn profile. So how I'd like to actually start is to ask each of our panellists to share a bit more about some of the other roles or some of the other hats that they might wear outside of their 9-to-5 mahi. I'm also being real mean because I've said in the notes earlier is, you know, don't be humble, and that's really hard for Māori and Pacific people to not be humble, but I might just hand over to Dan to talk about some of the, laughing already, Dan to just kick us off.
Ka pai e te mare kura. Tēnā koutou katoa tuatahi e mihi ana ki te kaiwaka moimiti, Dr. Valens. Kia koe te rangatira nau tātou I wakatau me wakaruru hau ki manaki. Tēnā koe. Ki ngā mana whenua e ora mai nei ki tēnei wai o Ngāti Whātua ki o Rake, tēnā koutou mō koutou manaki me te aku o ngā tangata noko nei, me o manaki kia tātou hoki. Ko wai au, heuri wake eke au no ngā iwi kei raro e te koro ai te manga tito ea ara ko te waka Aotea, ko tito ko wari te tangata, ko manu ia kai te apu, ko Ngāti Roanui, Ngārui Inerango Kiwi. Ko toku kuia no Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairua me tūhaurangi, ko toku koro no Tainui me Maniapoto, ka pota mai ko au, ko Dan Te Whenua Walker. Ko toku pāpa no ngā kapuku Victoria ko Ngāti Pākehā tōna iwi. Nō reira, tēnā tātou. And kia koutou katoa e ngā tangata moana mo te wakapuari ki a tātou, tēnā koutou. Kia ora everyone, my name is Dan Walker. For those who would have heard, I come from Taranaki. I come out from underneath the protective cloak of my mountain, Mount Taranaki, and I mihi from my mountain to all of your mountains, your rivers, your ancestor lands, and your tupuna. I grew up down in Christchurch and now live up here in Tāmaki Makaurau with my wife, my 3 amazing children, Josh, Tyler and Maya. And I am currently at Microsoft as the Senior Channel Sales. I look after the cloud for our partners. Lots of change happening in that space, lots of disruption. AI is probably one of the biggest ones happening at the moment. But I've got another hat, which is the co-chair of Indigenous as well, which we look after, or we help Microsoft on their Indigenous strategy wherever they are, which is in many places around the world. So that's a real passion of mine. In terms of other hats, as well as being a whānau member, I'm also on a variety of different community boards, trusts, and actually, one of our rangatira here, kia ora, Monica. We've got the CEO of Child Cancer Foundation here. I'm on the board of her, so I basically work for her, is how I see it. My son went through cancer 2 years ago, so it was one of the hardest journeys of my life. And what I did see was a lot of Māori and Pacifica in that Starship Hospital while I was there for 8 months. And there's something happening there, and when Monica asked me to apply, it was my honour, and it's my honour to still serve you. I'm also on things like my school board, my trust back home. I'm deputy chair of my iwi, and on the committee of my marae. As Māori, we have lots of different hats, but I'm also director of Tātaki Auckland Unlimited, director of New Zealand Māori Tourism, director of Ringa Hauora, and yeah, a few other different board roles as well. That's really, if it's a kaupapa around Māori, uplifting our whānau and creating opportunities where they can thrive, then I'm there. And that's my passion. So kia ora tātou.
Kia ora tātou, ko ai ahau i te taho tōku pāpā, tongariro te maunga taupō te moana, te hehau te tangata tuwhare tō te iwi, i te taho tōku māma, ko Ngāti Raukawa ki te tonga, Ngāti Maniapoto, me te Ati Haunui a Paparangi o ke iwi hoki, ko au te awa, ko au. No taumara nui ahau, ko Hermione McCallum tōku ingoa. So my name is Hermione. I got the McCallum from my husband over there, kia ora, but my whanaunga name is Kepa, and so that's my whakapapa through there. So I come from a confluence of waters. So I was born and raised in the metropolis of Taumaranui, which is, if you go past it on the way to skiing or to Taupua, you'll blink and then you've gone through my town. So I've got a lot of love for my town. So I've lived in Tāmaki Makaurau, this amazing place, Rohe, for the last 25 years. I'm really grateful for that. But my heart is always in the King Country and with my whanaunga on our papakainga. So that is me in a nutshell. I don't know with the talking, and after that one, I can't follow that. No. Who can follow that? But I think for me, I've had different roles. I'm a generalist, and I think I've picked up different skills and understanding, and I've learned a lot. And so that skill was all of those things. My puna is now kind of pointed towards the betterment of our people, and for my whānau, and for my hapu, and my responsibilities to them.
Kia ora.
So I think that is like corporate or cool choice, but actually it's our whānau, and I really love things around, like really basic things, but so important. So anything around waikai, whenua, whare, and whānau, that's kind of my purpose, I think, and to share that, and to make pathways for others, and to kind of be the defender sometimes at the front line between our roles and then our whānaus to make it, to clear the way. So I think that's my, that's kind of my jam.
Kia ora.
Yeah. On the side buzz, we're lucky to live out in Onekiritia, which is Hobsonville out West Auckland. West is best? No, it's not. It is a good one. So I live out there, and we've got a little ohu, it's Onekiritia, and so we're the group of Māori residents that hang out there, and we love to, bring our community along with the kaupapa. So we run like te tiriti workshops, we work with, we do matariki events, and I really love that because the rangatahi ran our last matariki event, and we brought the community in to watch an amazing film about the amazing navigator Heck. There was a beautiful movie, and I love doing that type of stuff, as well as the trust stuff and the marae stuff, and but also to serve other. Like we're not on our whenua, we don't live. This is not ours. We are visitors. So really working with kawarau maki in the area that we live, and kind of helping to support and tautoko what their aspirations are while we reside on their whenua.
Kia ora.
So, kia ora, that's me. Kia ora, lovely to be here. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Ni symbol of anaka, no ia e Māori o te Maisa Lisa Tai. Ngāti Autakoa. My name is Lisa Tai. Sorry, the children are in the front. I've been trying to wave at them to get a bottle of water. So here you go, well, I've got the mic. Come get the bottle of water.
ora.
I'm originally from Fiji, so born in Suva. My mum is from a tiny little island called Rotuma. You looked at it on a map, you'd see Samoa and Fiji, and Rotuma is a tiny little dot in the middle. Walk around it in a day, less than 2,000 people. So proud Rotuman. My dad is Fijian from Sub-Sabu and part Chinese as well. And we moved here in 1987 after the first coup in Fiji and have lived in West Auckland ever since. So I'm a proud Westie too. I don't know, just firstly, just thank you for the opportunity to be here at AUT. Like, just saying to Johannes and I have a lot of love for AUT. AUT gave me a scholarship to come and study here straight out of school. So any opportunity to come back and speak and to share, I'm all here. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. Roles, I've done a couple of governance roles in the past. I'm probably going through a season where my current 9 to 5 role, I've just wanted to, focus my time quite deliberately on family. So yes, I have my job at Deloitte, but my biggest role is these guys in the front. So I made quite a deliberate choice this year just to sort of cut back on some of the things I signed up to over the years just to make sure that I can do all the basketball games and all the rugby games and netball games, which for me in this season is actually really important. I've been at Deloitte for far too long. I must say that anything I say today are my opinions personally and not that of Deloitte.
Kia ora.
And awesome to see some of my colleagues here, so thank you to them for coming out to support. I guess I'd just describe my passion as I've been in corporate for 18 years, at Deloitte for 18 years. I just want to take all the cool, amazing things that we have access to in corporate and give that to communities. So I find myself, I'm just like, how do we take all these amazing things that we do in Big Four and consulting and actually direct it where it needs to be? So that's my secret plan of why I'm still at Deloitte.
Kia ora.
So, lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Ron. Hi, Ron. Talanoa, my name is I'm a very proud Samoan, born and raised in Auckland Central. Did a little bit of a stint out south side, so Auckland Central and South. I think the best. Yes, I'm currently at Westpac. Probably the thing outside roles that I have outside. Far from what these guys have, but I'll call them out anyways. I'm the premier coach of a basketball team. So I coach the girls basketball team, which I love just because I'm a big sports fan. I love my sports, anything with a ball, I'll follow. Another, should I use this? Yeah. Is that better? Can everyone hear me now a bit better? Yeah. Cool. And I'll keep it a bit brief as well. Probably another thing coming through is that I like to collect shoes. So that's my other thing for people out there. So I'm a big shoe collector. I've been collecting for a while now, and a lot of people when they ask me what's your favorite shoe or what's the most owned or your best shoe, I always tell everyone I have a signed pair of Michael Jordan shoes. So Michael Jordan signed them himself, and I think that for me is my most prized position in terms of shoes that I have. But that's me. Nice, short, simple, and thank you for having me. Past AUT alumni. So I was just talking here, I love this place. If it wasn't for AUT, I don't think I'd be where I was currently. Probably one more thing is that while I was here at AUT, AUT had an internship where you could go and intern abroad at other companies. It was called Interns at that time. And I was very fortunate to get picked. And I was there were about 2,000 applicants, and I was the number one who got picked to go over to work for Westpac in New York. So that kind of skyrocketed and kind of set my career path alight in the corporate space. So I'm always very grateful for AUT and the opportunities that they gave me. Cool. Thank you.
Edson, I'm glad when you said most prized possession of shoes, Or that you mentioned shoes, because I know your partner's in the room as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apologies. I'm very sorry. Yeah, my partner's up there. We're engaged and getting married next year, so can't wait for the happy wife, happy life. So, thank you.
Have you worn them?
The shoes? No, yeah. So these are basically in like a box, an acrylic box, and just there for, for show really. But it's just, it's a nice thing to have.
Yeah. And they're worth heaps.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Like, what an amazing panel we have. And I think it just sort of goes to show that, there's always so much more that goes on behind what our Māori and Pacific professionals are doing. Let's call it some invisible stuff, and just stuff that people feel pulled to be doing as part of, who you are, who we are. So with that, I just wanted to ask what have been some of the challenges, but also some of the positives, or either or, positive outcomes from these roles. Quite a big question, and we sort of keeping to time. But yeah, I suppose the question is, what are some of the challenges, but also what have been some of the positive outcomes from these roles, our role, a particular time? And I thought we'd start with you, Hermione. Hey,
I think when I talked about the ohu, so our ohu or one kiritia, we're all a group, we all work, we're all random workers, we've all got kids, and it's about showcasing our culture, our ahurea to our wider community, and to bring in, also showcase and sort of awhi our, or support the other minorities within our community. So I think some of the learnings of that, it actually mirrors our professional side as well, because what we're trying to do is, unfortunately, we still have to educate some, not all, some, a lot, on our culture, who we are, how we are, what our values are. It's about that collectivism versus the individual. So it's really interesting, and sometimes it's frustrating, but I think the thing that I really love in the informal setting is that we do karaoke after, as an ohu. So, I think it's about that resilience as well, and just really like grinding through also our hard stuff that we have to do day to day, and some of the dumb stuff that comes out of it, and we're just like, why do we continually have to explain ourselves when we should be talking about the innovation pieces, the pieces that we should be exploring, not the, that's an interesting Māori concept, can you tell me about it? It's like, well, that's no. So I think, getting together and talking about those things, it's great learnings for us, and it keeps us strong, so we're like this little heartbeat inside of this thing that it won't be smothered. So I think that's one learning that we have. Another learning is, what else do we do? Just so many things. I think through different roles that I've done, I've picked up these techniques and skills and I've been able to sift through the irrelevant stuff that doesn't match, and really sort of boost the important things that will matter for our whānau. And as an example is, I did a stint with a UK, Australian, New Zealand organisation called the Innovation Unit, and we did systems thinking, innovation design, co-design, all those things. Some of them were awesome, but that doesn't really fit into our space. So I've been able to use it as a practical thing, because now with our river whānau, we're looking at some of our settlements, and so we're able to take those skills in real life and go back and run these wānanga with our whānau around, how can we make the things, what do we want to do? Like, what is it for you? So I think that is like the coolest thing about not having just one skill. We have many skills, picking and tailoring and choosing and going, that's dumb, that's awesome, I'll learn that, I'll do that because it pays the bills and keeps the lights on, but I'm going to park this one over here because that's for our whānau. So I think that's my learnings out of that.
And I think that's it. It's like you're a negotiator, an educator. When we talk to different hats, there's all those skills that we sort of don't recognise or perhaps talk about. Doing all these other things, doing the cultural journey for others, doing your own cultural journey. It's you know, talks to all the different parts that intrinsically we do but might not sort of recognise. Lisa, what are your thoughts on any challenges or positives?
Warning, I'll either cry or I'll get fired. So I think just when I started, or we started PASPIAL back in 2019, so PASPIAL is Deloitte's Pacific Services Group. I started it out of frustration, out of the fact that we had, probably I could count on one hand how many Pacific people we had across the country. So I think we had 5 Pacific people back in 2019. And we think about how big an organisation like Deloitte is, it was like just, it was ridiculous and not quite good enough. And so that frustration was really the birth of something pretty awesome. So PASPIAL was really, how do we create a community in what is a traditionally, I guess, mainstream corporate space that will provide an opportunity for other young Pacific people to come in and actually be able to learn, do really cool stuff, but have a good time and actually feel safe. So probably the challenge for me was, I guess, have 18 years in an industry where you are overwhelmingly part of the minority. And so I always say it's so hard being the first person in a space or the first few. We were just saying earlier, we're like, well, if you're not the first, then who else is going to do it? So you've sort of got to like pick up that baton and do it. But it doesn't take away from, I think what you're saying, the burden or just the toll it takes of having to be the first to educate on something. So that can be, I find that really taxing, quite tiring, to be honest, and quite draining. But I know that there's a bigger purpose here, and that's why we keep going. So I guess, I mean, the positive thing is I've got some awesome PASPIAL colleagues here. And you know, we are growing. I think we're now 70 odd in a couple of years, and not enough. We want to be representative of our population, so if it's 10%, we're going to be 10% of Deloitte. But we're making good progress. So to me, small amounts of change mean at least we're on the right path.
And we see it, Lisa, so, you know.
Couple.
Hanson, challenges, positives?
So for me, in my, small or like short corporate life experience, I've only been in like the corporate world for about 5 years now. But for me, challenges that I kind of see in everyday work or just in a lot of roles is gatekeeping. You have a lot of times when you're in a role and you're just trying to progress or you're trying to further your career, but there are some people who just hold the gates for you to actually be able to go to the next step or progress in your career. And I think abroad, all kind of businesses or corporates that you're in, it's a very common thing where, there's someone that's been in a role for 20 plus years and you're trying to kind of come up there, but you can't take that next step until either they move on or they create a new role for you to kind of step in the middle of that space. So I noticed there is a lot of gatekeeping, or that's a big challenge for me because I have very high aspirations within Westpac, and for me, like just kind of climbing the corporate ladder, that's a bit of a challenge because it's kind of like you want to keep going higher, but then you don't want to go sideways. But if you go sideways, does that mean that you're going to be able to keep climbing the ladder? So a challenge for me is the gatekeeping that can occur in your roles or where you're around. The things to like for me where I've kind of managed to get out of gatekeeping or to actually get into the next set of roles is just actually being able to communicate and talking to other people, talking to your peers, even talking to other bosses, or if your boss maybe is the one gatekeeping you, finding just other people within similar roles and talking to them. Because I think in New Zealand, we all love to help each other and, share where we can. So like for me, like if someone was coming up and they were talking to me, I'd love to give them my time just because, any way we can help, it feels good, right? So just ways that I've kind of gotten around that is like I've found like I've either gone one step higher than that person. So I've gone to like, if my boss's boss, or I've gone to, someone else and actually talked to them, just been voicing what you actually want from your role or where you want to go in your role. So for me, actually like finding a mentor or just talking with people who can actually help you plan a path and a motion to get to where you want to be is a big key thing for me. So so that's a challenge that I faced, and that's kind of also a positive that you can get out of it as well, is that, you know, like, you have to be the one to make that change. So if you want to, you know, if you're saying that you want to be the CEO or you want to eventually go somewhere in a role, it's up to you, because no one's going to, you know, hand it out to you, or no one's going to kind of spoon feed you and just go, here's a CFO role or here's a CEO role that you want. You got to do the work with it, but then also you got to make sure when you're doing the work that you're actually, you know, making the progress and just finding the right people to actually help you, take you up with you. So that's a challenge for me, and then also kind of just a positive on how I can on how I got through gatekeeping as well. Yeah.
So watch the space next CEO of Westpac.
That's it.
Coming right up. Dan, how about you?
Bro, you got to remember me when I'm working for you.
Yeah.
So I guess from a challenge perspective, my life has been a bit of a challenge around, you know, I dropped out of high school with no qualifications. I didn't get school, and it just didn't get me. I was also very disconnected. I grew up in Christchurch in the 80s, and the general narrative at that time for Māori was just really negative. Turn on the TV, turn on the news, that's all you saw. And some of that still perpetuates today. And we need to be thinking about that, cognizant about how we see that play out for particularly our rangatahi. And so I had to overcome a lot of self-doubt, a lot of failure in my early years. And that still kind of plagues me today in terms of just general anxiety of being up in front of people, and why do they want to listen to what I have to say, and or even just being in a corporate role in general. But what has helped me is finding mentors and finding people who believe in me, and that started with my whānau. They helped me to, you know, after dropping out, actually saying that they believed in me and helping me learn who I was, helping me to understand my culture, and that was my trajectory. At age 18 roughly is when I first started on that track. So through that I stepped into the corporate space and rose up, and now at Microsoft I'd say one of the big challenges there is a part of what's been talked about here, which is cultural tax. I think, you know, the cultural tax concept, and I didn't make this up, this is a term that's been used before, is the idea that, you know, being the token Māori or the token Pacifica, they come to you and say, right, hey, can you hook me up with a wakatoki or proverb for this pitch? Or, you know, all the way through to, hey, can you run this pōwhiri for us? Can you, help us with translating this? And by the way, get it to me before 5 p.m. today, because, you know, we really need this. Just today, I had because I want to help, you know, but and a guy's like, how can you help me translate this pepeha? And he's like, okay, here you go. And then he's like, oh, can you give me the phonetic of all of this so I know how to say it properly? It's like, oh my gosh. You know, so there's a cultural tax. Not only do you have to be good at being Māori or Pacifica, but, you know, you also have to be good at your job. And we know with colonisation, it's already a barrier that we have to try and climb over. So cultural tax is a real thing, whānau. Think about it in your organisations, where you lead, where you are, especially if you're hiring, how that plays out. The other one is role models. If we don't see ourselves in that space, then just know that we're going to be moke moke. We're going to feel alone, and there's going to be that, how that plays out. We're less likely to step up and talk up. Particularly our Pacifica whānau, I noticed, they won't talk themselves up, you know, in terms of the kumara. They're more likely to uplift others than uplift themselves, and then how that plays out for our wahine as well. So role models are important, and we need to focus on how we highlight our role models within the organisations that we represent. And, you know, the representation piece is key, because a lack of representation always results in a lack of trust. these are things that I'm working on in Microsoft. It is a challenge, we're on a journey, but in terms of successes, starting at Microsoft 4 and a bit years ago, there were 2 Māori. Out of 150,000 people globally, there were 2 Māori. And the other one was Venus, who was an intern, ex-AUT. Yeah.
Venus, yeah.
She is amazing. But she came through the internship tuputoa. So out of that, I birthed the concept of how do we find others who think like me, act like me, and we started in 2020 August, Indigenous at Microsoft. And so with a few Native Americans, some Canadians, some Hawaiians, about 30 of us, we launched it. And now today, 3 years later, there's over 3,000 of us. So we've got chapters now. Actually, our strongest and most vibrant chapter is the Pacifica chapter, because it represents such a strong, all of our Pacifica community who have gone global. And there's so many of them, it's amazing. And how they collectivise and come together is a superpower, I think, of Indigenous. So that's a success point, but it's a constant journey of how we keep pushing that. Because if you've got Indigenous or if you've got Māori, Pacifica in your organisation, find ways to help them collectivise. Either if it's not in your organisation, how do you collectivise outside so that you can create that whanaungatanga, which Dr. Valens talked about, to help them uplift.
Yeah, no, cool. And I'm going to change it up a little bit because I wanted to ask a question around a bit of a pulse check on where industry is at in and around the Māori and Pacific space, and I sort of think we've sort of talked to that, like that's created a good picture of where we're at now. So I just wanted to shift a little bit, and I'm just going to do a quick fire in and around what do Māori and Pacific bring to the table, because I think there's this this strategy, a D&I strategy around, representation and more Māori and Pacific, but actually what do Māori and Pacific bring to the metaphorical table? What is it within our people and the skills and what is intrinsic in us that you see? I just thought if maybe you could do a quick fire around that. Lisa, shall we start with you?
That wasn't on the list.
That wasn't your one. I'm throwing you off. I'm sorry,
Okay.
but I just think, yeah.
I think diversity in all shapes and forms is really important, and I think what we bring is a different set of values, a different lived experience, a different perspective, and that in itself has a huge amount of value. And so, for me, all of the values that make Pacific who we are awesome. All of the experiences that we bring to the table, not only our own, but our families and our communities, it's something new. It just shines a completely different light on the spaces that we walk into. So I just think there is real beauty in the fact that we all come from a different place and a different space. And we think differently. So you said rapid fire, so I was going to keep it really short and then pass it over to Darren.
Yeah, just touching there, I think just our different cultural backgrounds, our diversity that we bring into workplaces has a huge effect on organizations. I think as Pacific Islanders and Māoris, we're very empathetic. That's a big thing when it comes to organizations, is that we're able to put ourselves in other people's shoes, where if it was vice versa, sometimes, they might not understand your culture or where you're coming from. So for me, that's a big thing that Pacific Islanders and Māoris just bring to any organization, is just the fact that we're very empathetic. And also I feel like everyone's generally always happy, We're
funny.
we just bring a good positivity to work, or try to most of the days, So that's my rapid fire thing. Yeah.
Thank you. Ben?
I think to carry on from that point, a lot of Māori and Pacifica are ninjas because they've had to grow up in the predominant culture. And so we did a survey at Microsoft, and 89% of the Microsoft people had not been on a marae. So we know that for Māori and Pacifica, they walk in two worlds. And just that alone, the ability to adapt in different environments, the ability to connect through, across and build bridges, all that stuff is an amazing superpower that I think that that Māori and Pacifica can bring. Just quickly as well, in terms of where the Māori and Pacifica can bring is the values as well. Just the way their worldview, even the way they look at ownership. Ownership is seen as two different things. Last month we just settled Taranaki Maunga. Taranaki achieved legal personhood, the first mountain in the world to achieve legal personhood. What does that mean? Well, that means that first we see it as an ancestor, as itself. Nobody can own it because Taranaki owns itself now. Nobody could commercialise it and make money because Taranaki owns itself now. And we've seen it with Te Awa, we've seen it with Te Uruera, and this is a new way of looking at things. These worldviews can actually help save the world, whānau. If we start layering up into big organisations like Deloitte, Microsoft, I always say, yep, tech is good for Māori, Māori is good for tech. And we can, Indigenous wisdom can save the world.
Yeah.
Total for that. Total for that. I think as well, I think we talked about the table. I'm going to flip it over. Yep. We talked about the table, and it's like, well, sometimes we don't want to be at those dumb tables. We want to be on the marae. We want to be, on the awa. We want to be out in te taiao. So it really depends, I think, that perspective of table, or whāriki, or, where do we want to sit? So it kind of changes things a lot. I think as well, the perspective that we bring, and I think I mentioned it before, it's never a me, it's a we. It's always about the benefit of others, of our next generation. So we never own anything, we don't own anything. We are the caretakers of it, and we want to, either retain or enhance it for that next generation, and that's what that's about, I think. And so that's my whakaaro on that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And I suppose with that, my next question is, do you think the mechanisms are in place for our superpowers to be enhanced, heard, table, whatever we want to see this as, are they there? And if not, what could this look like? And actually, Dan, I might start with you on this one. Yeah.
The mechanisms are being built in different areas, but it's still a constant force that we have to work within. We work in a colonised environment. Okay, so and that's a reality, and there's lots of positives that have come from that, lots. And then there's also a systemic and society-wide push that can try to push away those mechanisms as well. So it's about how do we embed it and move away from the performative, move away from the tokenistic, and embed from the grassroots, from the very start, rather than tack on at the end, then, we need to give it a Māori name. We've done everything else, now let's give it a Māori name. Oh, that's happened so many times. And, or maybe it's, let's hire the Māori guy or girl to be, and let's give her a senior role so that we're showing that we are trying to do something. But if we're not actually starting from the beginning and embedding these values and these worldviews in our strategies, then it's just going to be a tick box.
Yeah.
Kapoi. Make it positive, like that went.
I don't know if I can make it because I just keep it real way.
Yeah.
Hey, keep it real.
Keep it real.
I think we all know that we're brought up in a system and we're raised in a community and we live in it that is not made for us. It was not made to benefit us. It never was. It's by design. So I think it's really about, okay, you fellas can do what you want. We're going to do what we want now. And there's so many amazing kaupapa happening, you know, out in our communities, and it's giving the power back to the people, which I just love it. So the current, where I'm sitting, it is absolutely not set up for equitable partnership. There's a lot of kōrero about partnerships and authenticity and genuine, but until you like halve the roles and give the same money, then no, it's never that. So I think I'm really excited just to see these smaller kaupapa grow that are done by our iwi-led, marae-led, hapori-led. Those are the ones that I'm like, man, I want to go and hang out with them, you know? Like, but I think the positions that we hold at whatever tables, whether it's a desk, it's usually a desk for me, it's the thing for him, but sitting behind it and just looking at the strategies, like strategically, how can we miri or massage it so that it can work for those cool bits to work? Like how can we get the putia, get the money and funnel it over? And sometimes we have to do it by stealth as well, or put a different colour lipstick on it, but really, it's not a pig whānau, it's amazing. And so, you know, it's about how we interpret things and how we reword things and not give it a Māori name either.
Yeah.
It's like, my question back is always, why does it need to have a Māori name? You know? Like our Māori strategy is called Te Rautaki Māori, which is a literal translation to a Māori strategy. We're not going to call it an amazing thing, you know, because it needs to deliver first. Anyway, so that's my whakaaro on that anyway.
Ka pai.
For what I say. Big Four consulting firms are a certain way. And so if the question is, do I think the mechanisms are in place for our voices to be heard, I think we've made some good progress, like for sure. And if I reflect on when I started 18 years ago to now, like, yeah, there's been some awesome change. I think the challenge is, how do you do that every day? It's not just when it's Pacific Language Week. It's not just when we've got something to celebrate or we've got a Pacific client. Like, how do you embed all the things that we know to be good and true? It's just the way we operate and just part of the way we work. And I just really believe that like diversity, inclusion, all these amazing words really are nothing, you know, quite tokenistic without a shift in power. And so we can bring more Pacific people into our spaces, but unless we're going to put them in positions where they can make change and can do cool things and make decisions, then it's still to its core a little bit token, sorry. But Deloitte's great. So I think there's good progress, but just still quite a long way to go.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, for me personally, I think that the hardest thing, or just the mechanisms in an organization, it's kind of like you get what you get from them, and it's hard, it's tough, because, you know, sometimes you can see that they're just, you know, trying to make diversity or inclusion just to kind of tick boxes or kind of run it through the ads. But then, in my opinion too, it's also good that that's happening because it builds awareness and it gets more people actually wanting to be in the corporate industry or wanting to get, you know, a foot in the door. And then I also think that yeah, just the mechanisms for the time being that I've been there have been improving. We have really good, I feel like we have a really good culture, but for me the biggest thing is once you're in there, it's being able to make the change yourself, because a lot of the time, you know, we'll have conversations or you'll talk with other people about, you know, you want to make this change or we want to do this, but then it never happens because it's just spoken words. And the thing is the onus is usually, or I feel like when I'm at work, the onus is on me to go and make that change. So now that I'm in a position where, you know, I can start to bring other people up with me, or we can kind of come up together, that's a big thing, because I feel like if you can if you have the mental fortitude and you're the person within your organization where you can make the change yourself within it, if it starts from you, you know, it'll carry on to the next person, and then that's where we see, you know, a cultural shift or a big shift in an organization. But it's just the fact that, like, when you're that one person, just because, like, at Westpac, in institutional, in the area that I'm in, I'm actually the only Pacific Islander in institutional banking. So for me, just, you know, like, once we can get the shift going, you know, I'd love to see more people of, you know, Pacifica and Māori in there, you know. As long as they can do the job, man, it doesn't matter what culture or where you're from, but it'd be cool just to see, you know, more of us out there amongst the people, you know, amongst up in that, like, corporate space. Yeah.
Cool.
See?
Thank you. And I suppose with that, like, yeah, we've still got a way to go, and I want to say, you know, thank you to all of you for all the mahi you do and what you've done before and sort of advocating. You know, I see you in this space as pushing for more Māori and Pacific initiatives, people coming through. Before we quickly hand over to Anau to start with the Q&A, my last thing to finish off is just quick fire. Quick success story or something you're particularly proud of, whatever that might come to you in this moment. So, yeah.
The youngest should go first, I reckon.
I can go. Probably my success, or kind of the thing that I'm most proud of when it comes to work, is the role that I'm currently in and what I'm currently doing in this role. So for me, basically, if you think about it, the Westpac CEO, and then if you have, like, the tiering, I'm basically fourth from the top. So there are four other, like, so my boss's boss basically is the CEO. So I feel like that's my goal, or what I want to get to, is I want to be the first Pacific Islander CEO of a Big Four bank. So that's the goal, and I always say, like, why can't it be me? So yeah, so why can't it be me? Why can't it be us? So for me, that's my goal, and that's something that I'm aspiring to. So yeah, watch the space, you know. Hopefully in the next 10 years, 10 years, I'm there. So yeah, that's my goal that's out there, and that's what I want to do.
Cool.
Yeah.
Scott Hudson.
I talked about Pascal and I talked about numbers, and numbers are really important. I think probably the greatest success is the community that we've built, or the family, environment that we've created for ourselves. And we're all sitting over there. So we had our ball last week, and for me, my husband, we were sitting there and we were just reflecting, like, we've been coming to these balls for like 18 years, and we are the only brown people at these events. And so it was just so awesome to see our crew there in numbers, having an awesome time. Like, they own the dance floor, and they were just, to me, just felt like that they were 100% comfortable in who they were in this space that traditionally hasn't been for us. And so just the fact that they look after one another, they support one another, they hang out, they are themselves, like, is the greatest success about Pascal so far. And then my daughter's sitting over here. Like, I think personal success, I probably wasn't someone that grew up as being that connected or feeling connected to my culture or who I was. But I think through Pascal and the work that I've done in a workspace, my kids are seeing the benefit of it. And so, you know, we talk about Language Week. She is Miss Pacific Language Week. Like, we have a Samoan flag outside our house, we have a Fijian flag. She is there up doing all the dances, and she is 100% proud to be who she is. And for me, I don't think that could have happened if I hadn't gone through this space. So that's cool. And then I think, Cindy, I'll try not to be humble. I'm the second Pacific partner at Deloitte. And so there's two of us. And
we got there, Lisa, we got there.
There are 152 partners at Deloitte, and there are two of us that are Pacific, and we're both women. And the other one is, her name's Amy, and she is a Pacific woman in tech. She's Samoan from Manarewa. And so, yes, we might be small in numbers, but the fact that we have started the journey and that there are two of us and we're doing it together is awesome. I'll start crying, so I'll pass it on.
So good.
follow that. But what am I most proud of? I think I'm not proud, but I'm privileged to be able to take the skill sets, and now that, you know, my whānau and my hapu and my marae know that they're there, they trust me enough to go, hey, we need this and we need that. Who do you know? So that is such a privilege for me to be able to do that. And I think, actually we're talking about kids, so raising teenagers and that, you know, they're pretty all right. We always like complain about them, but I'm sure they complain more. So I think that, and also, you know, because they are also in there, they get to live in Tāmaki away from our ahika, away from our papakainga, but they are lucky enough to still be immersed in te ao Māori, lucky enough to go to kura kaupapa, you know, and to learn te reo and do all the things, to the point where they kind of take it for, you know, they take it for granted a little bit. But, yeah, I'm glad it's a normal thing for them, so they don't think the way that we think about things. And I love that, and I love, yeah, that's cool.
Cool.
Kia ora. Just quickly, similar, my tamariki are my biggest success. And the fact that they don't have any of the same inferiority complex that I had at their age. You know, they know who they are. Yeah. And that to me is the biggest win, the fact that they don't carry a lot of the baggage that even just to learn the reo, I had to work through some stuff, you know, in terms of, you know, just some trauma of myself that I had to go through. So that's a big success for me. And the other one though is we started pōwhiri. So when I started at Microsoft, I was like, I can't start here without a pōwhiri. And Vanessa, our country manager, is like, oh, okay, well, we don't normally do that, but we'll do it for you. And so she got Ngāti Whātua in and did a pōwhiri for me and a few others that started. But then now we do pōwhiri for new people that start at Microsoft. So, and then when I started at Tātaki, same. I was like, I can't do it without a pōwhiri. So everyone got a pōwhiri. You know, it's important whānau because it's, you know, we talk about health and safety. Pōwhiri is your cultural health and safety. So when you start at a new job, demand a pōwhiri. Kia ora.
That was a nice way to finish this part of tonight's session. I'm now going to hand over to Anau Mesui Henry, one of our AUT alumni, entrepreneur, boss lady, co-founder of Four Shelves Carver Lounge, for our Q&A. So I hand over the space to you, sis. Are you... Come on.
Okay, yeah,
come on.
Cool. Man, that's awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. How are we all feeling? Hungry, I bet. It's okay. I understand it's that time of the evening. If you just want to take a quick 30-second break, look for someone you don't know, give them a high five. Simple as that.
Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Well done.
Well done. Well done. Well done.
Shot.
Welcome.
So I think we won't be too long because we know we've got Kai here. And if you're not hungry, I'm just going to be honest, I am. But we wanted to give you the opportunity to everyone here to ask any questions that they may have off the back of the Talanoa. And can I just say, I'm representing Southside here. We've got our central, west. For all the Southsiders, yep, I'm here representing us all. Yeah, so did anyone have any questions? We'll have mics going around. But while you're thinking about your question, I've actually got a question for Dan.
Hi.
In the tech space. So from what I've read about the tech industry, they keep telling us there's not enough people to fill the roles in the industry. But just yesterday, I was just reading a post on LinkedIn by one of it's called 3 Bags Full.
Aye.
And they, 2 weeks ago, they put a message out there, hey, we got 30 Pacific Māori candidates, some with even computer science degrees, who are just not getting into the space. Like, what's going on, Dan?
That's a good pātai e hoa. And, we currently there would be over 2,500 open roles. And so there's a disconnect between the tech sector and the hiring. There is things like built-in bias as well. But there's actually a barrier in general around how we get those CVs or those candidates in front of the right people. I always try and tell the whānau, look past the CV. Look, the fact that, these people here have talked about it as well in terms of they represent a community and they generally are leaders in their community as well if they've made it this far to an interview. But a lot of our, particularly Pacifica and also Māori, they don't even make that to the interview. So it needs disruption actually, that whole setup. So yes, there is that barrier. There's a skills gap as well. So lots of qualifications, but not the right skills. So how do we work together around that? Work with AUT around that. There's a real opportunity in that space too.
Oh, awesome. I feel like we could keep having that conversation, but we'll leave it for another day. Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Oh, yes. Thank you. Just got one.
Kia ora tātou, o loo lingoa o Olana Kaipo. So I'm just really like to thank you all for what you've brought to us today. We've heard a little bit about, I guess, Māori and Pacific and not being at the table as much as we'd like to see. I'd say a big reason might be, the fact that a lot of us don't feel like we're good enough, and maybe self-doubt comes into that. I wanted to know, maybe from either of you, whether self-doubt has come up in your work and how you may have dealt with that.
Totally, absolutely, all the time. Like every day, getting in the car, I'm like, oh, am I doing this? So it's a normal thing, I think. It's a human thing, I think, as well. But also, I think you just have to sit in your mana, stand in your mana, and just be you. And I think you get out of the car and you shake it off, get off your bicycle or off the bus or the ferry, and then you just take a breath and just get on with it. I think from a practical sense, I've been in spaces where I'm like, whoa, how did I get here? But you don't think about it as you. I think that's how everyone talks about imposter syndrome, but you don't think about you. You think about for who.
For who?
Always think about for who. And that gets you over it. And then you just get over yourself and just go get on with it. That's how I would, my experience. Kia ora.
That's awesome.
I think you've read every day, all day. It's very funny though, like sometimes then you'll sit there in a space that you feel quite anxious about, or you're like, well, I'm not supposed to be here, and then you sit there and you listen and you're actually like, oh no, I know more than everybody else here. Like actually, no. I am supposed to be here, and so all the things that she said, but just emphasise it. I think we all feel it, and I don't know if it ever goes away. You just find different ways to manage it. And for me, I think I'm a really good listener, and when I listen, I'm like for me, I'm like, oh, actually, I do know something after all this time, and actually, I do belong here. And so I think it just takes a little bit of time to check ourselves, and then you can do all the amazing things.
Yeah, and we've got to remember as well, we weren't the first to start these things, right? We just like adding on. We're in second iteration, third iteration. So we're standing on the mahi, or we're backing up the mahi and standing on the shoulders of our tipuna, of our ancestors, of others before us who have allowed us to have this privilege to get into the door and to sit at these tables. So I think that's also another way to kind of think about the future, the dreaming into reality as well. So yeah.
I don't feel any imposter syndrome, FYI. It's probably the Tongan in me. We're made to be here, guys. This is our time and space. This is exactly where we're meant to be. If we're in a room, wherever that room is, I believe we're meant to be there for a purpose. But yeah, just had to say it. Johansson.
No, I was just saying the same thing, you definitely, there are days where, you're not confident in yourself, or you may feel like you're not supposed to be there. But for me, I just always remind myself, that if you're meant to be where you're meant to be. And usually I always remind myself, that your boss hired you for a reason. Like, they're not going to give a job out and they won't trust someone that they don't think you can do the job. So, like if you don't think you can do it yourself, there's someone above you or someone next to you that knows you can do it. So it's just a matter of a mindset where when you're coming into a role or you're coming into a job, you just realize that you can do this. If you feel like you can't, I think there's been times where I felt like I can't, and I don't know sometimes I actually don't know what I'm doing in a role. And then, I'm doing something and I'm like, what is this, or what am I looking at, But that's when you lean on your peers, or you actually find someone who can help you, I always say that it's better to ask questions, like no question is a dumb question, and it's better to ask that question and actually get help rather than you hold it in yourself and you're trying to figure it out yourself, and then you get to a point where you can't actually go back and ask that question, or go back and talk to that person because you're now so far gone in the role. So for me, like when I've been in a new role and I don't know anything, that's when I ask as many questions as I can. And I always come back to myself knowing that I'm meant to be where I am, and if this is where I want to be, then this is my role and I own it. So yeah.
That's Westpac CEO in the making right there, right? Honestly.
I see it.
Do you remember my name? Just wondering if we can be friends after this. Dan, did you have anything to add?
Oh, no. One thing that I struggled with was earning money. I've got 100 first cousins, and in terms of, on my Māori side, 3 on my dad's side. But in terms of feeling actually okay about earning money, that was a real journey for me. But I know now around the role modelling that we need to do for our future generations, but also our current generations. We need to actually work out how money flows. We need to show as well that we can move in this way so that we can thrive. I think it's really important for us in terms of the next stage, the next iteration that we talk about too.
That's amazing. I love that. Just wondering if I can get a loan. Is that laugh or yes?
I got a wife, and so
okay.
Yeah.
Apologies. Anyone else have any questions? Oh yes, this beautiful lady over here.
How do you apply spirituality to your roles?
Great question.
I think there was an early question they were talking about around what is your superpower. For me, my superpower is my faith. I know sometimes it's like a little bit awkward to talk about it in the workspace, but I'm probably in a stage and phase where I feel like it's just who I am, and so faith plays a huge part of why I'm here and why I'm in this role. So I don't know, it's just so intrinsically weaved into my journey that I know that I couldn't have got here without faith, and that faith has gotten me through the toughest of times in this role. So alongside my family, but me personally.
Did anyone else want to add?
I think for me, growing up in a traditional sort of Catholic whānau, being educated in that space, I've kind of really turned it back to pre-colonialism, and so it's about reclamation for me and for my whānau. It's about te taiao, it's about our ancestors, and it's about our traditions. So I think that's how, and that's intrinsic in us. We just have to reactivate that gene sometimes because it's in our DNA. So when I go into these spaces and I'm like, oh, I'm the only brownie in here, ka pai. It's not just me in there, it's all of my whānau with me. And so I think about that piece, and I love that because it's like gives you that wairua that you need to get through things. I think that's how I do it.
Faith is really important. Short story yesterday, my work colleague, sort of like a work colleague, I was like, hey, I need to read you a Bible verse, Colossians. And she's not of faith, but she was happy to read it because we were talking about, being the spirit of love and kindness and gentleness. So I think sometimes it's just a matter of owning that space if it's you, normalizing it, and then kind of knowing when to push and when to pull back. But it's up to you. It's your life. We just have another question just at the back. Oh, over here.
Kia ora, everyone. Thank you so much for this to our distinguished speakers. It has been really inspirational. My question regards, because I come from an ethnic background myself, and New Zealand is becoming more and more diverse. So my question relates to how do we ensure that the voice of our ethnic communities are also heard, and do you have any advice for us, for non-Māori, non-Pacific? How do we stand up for ourselves and ensure that our voices are also heard? Thanks.
Kia ora. I'll say a lot of the growth that we've seen in Aotearoa New Zealand, I think there's two key driving forces. One is our wahine stepping into leadership, and we know that as wahine do that, as our females step into more of their leadership roles, they have a different ahua or a different approach, which is more inclusive. So that's one thing. The other one is more of our migrants stepping into leadership roles as well. And just, they've got the same lived experience of coming from a different culture, bringing their own values into a dominant Western environment. And what I've found in terms of my immigrant mates is that they actually want to see Māori and Pacifica. They want to see something different than what's in Sydney or what's in New York or what's around the world. So that's a driving force as well, which is really special. I have had the challenge as well from some migrant whānau around how do we engage with Māori? And that's I think a journey that we need to go on together, because some of them seem to find it hard. There's different ways that can be looked at in terms of, even for Māori, it can be hard to engage with their own iwi, but the point is to start finding and creating friendships with Māori and Pacifica, and then the concept of how do we work with Māori iwi, how do we connect with marae, that will come, but it starts with friendship. And that's what Te Tiriti o Waitangi is. It creates a space. It's tangata whenua and tangata tiriti. So Māori and non-Māori, it gives everyone the right to be here, and we walk together in relationship forward. We try and make Te Tiriti into something bigger, and we've got strategies and all, that's fine. We try and legislate it, that's fine. But actually all it is a relationship. And relationships aren't always good. They'll sometimes we'll fall off that's the point of a relationship, is we stay in it and we keep coming back together.
Yeah, I think we talked about, in another precursor, we talked about what's topical for us that I've been hearing a lot recently is that it's good to be at that table, but when you start having really hard conversations, some of those parties walk away because they don't know how to understand things and they don't want to understand things.
Aye.
So that's a hard thing, and I think that might be sort of speaking similar to how some of our minority communities sometimes feel as well. Their voices aren't heard, and when you ask the question that you've just asked, no one wants to talk about it because it seems too hard. But what you'll find is that there's actually leaders who are the connectors in these spaces for you. I have a mate, Jade, and she runs this program. She's got this program, and it's about ethnic communities and bringing them along this journey and sort of growing their kaupapa and how they think and feel, but also her role as the connector clicks you in with our Māori, our Pacifica, and our other wider communities. So, and that whole thing, solidarity, we are stronger together. So that's one thing. Don't be scared. Like we can be quite, forthright as one of the partners in Te Tiriti. But we are responsible then to look after everyone who's here. So, yeah, I think that would be my advice, is to find the connectors in your community who can walk in all the spaces and is trusted and can bring you in. So that would be my bit of advice.
That's amazing. I hope that helped
There's
you.
a lady over here too.
Thank you.
Sorry, you want to say something?
Buenasia, my name is Eunice, and I just want to thank everyone on the panel. Thank you so much for being at the table. We know that being at the table is, time taken away from family and special events and stuff, and so I just want to thank you for that. My question for pretty much all of you is there anyone, where we've been raised by a collective, we've been raised by a village, and we know that we're not just our own. And so were there poignant people in your village, it could look like in the community, your relatives, or a trusted leader. Was there a poignant person that really paved the way or kind of gave you that validation that they do that, they've been able to collectively gather people for a purpose, and I see that grace or that ease to do that as well? Is there anyone that you can identify that was kind of that pivotal person for you in your journey?
Thank you, Eunice.
Yeah, I can talk to that. For me, it's my mother. So my mother was a very pivotal person in my life and just in our family. My mother was basically the very first in both sides of my family to ever go to university and to graduate and get a degree. So for me growing up, I saw that it could be done, and that's a big thing. Like when you can see someone in a higher role or somewhere that's, maybe the same nationality or the same color or whatever it may be, if you can see someone where you're alike to them, it can be done and you can get there. So for me, the most pivotal person would be my mother. She was the first one to, finish her school C at the time, go to university, get a degree, and then get actually like a higher paying job, because basically when I was growing up, my grandparents would look after me while my mom would work. So that's usually a very familiar thing in the Samoan culture, where your parents have to go out and work while your grandparents, they're now retired and can look after you, or sometimes even working. So my grandfather, he was a bus driver, and my grandmother worked at the post shop, the Auckland Post at the time. So just growing up, just the actual foundations or people in your life, especially my mother, I've seen she works in corporate, so I saw that she could work, like I could work in corporate as well. So it's just kind of those building blocks where for me personally, I've seen someone who's been able to go and do it, and I can do it, and now it's my turn to kind of take where she's gotten to a point and now succeed there and go even further with it. So that's my person anyways.
Amazing, thank you.
I was doing so well, I was saying I'm not going to cry. This is probably the question that will make us all cry, and my husband and my children are sitting here, so I've got lots of people that have are the reason for why I'm here, and I'll come to that in a minute. But I think for my parents, essentially my mum didn't finish primary school and left a little tiny island called Rotuma, went to Suva, Fiji, worked in retail, met my dad and came here after the first coup. And so, now there's the story. So my mum and dad have just worked their bums off to be here, and for me and my siblings to be where we are. And so I've learned the value of hard work and grit through my parents, through my mum and dad. And I think we're very fortunate that we don't have to look very far for awesome role models. And we just finished the Pacific Pay Gap inquiry, which has been a cause that's been really dear to my heart, because I'm just sick of Pacific women not being paid what they're worth. And so my mum is probably a prime example of someone who worked in a factory for 30 years, never made more than minimum wage, was made redundant because of all the new technology that came in, and is now retired and she can rest now, but it's been a really hard slog. And so from her I've learnt the resilience part and just the value of hard work. So I met my husband, he's getting all embarrassed now. I met my husband when I was 16, and so this journey is not mine alone, because we have literally grown up like his babies together. So at different parts of his career, he's taken a back seat so that I could keep going. And so, yeah, he's pretty awesome. And my children are the reason why we keep going. So.
Oh, no. Oh. Yeah, I think we do have to acknowledge our partners that we end up with. We don't always choose the right one first. The one that we end up with is the one that can sometimes you do better, like you egg each other on. So I think that's really cool. But I was lucky too. I had my nan was one that was always in the back doing all the things, just quietly getting on with it. So she was awesome. And then some of my other whanaunga, now. But some of my whanaunga are like rock stars because they just fight. They just keep going. Yeah. Them. It's always them. The ones that are closest to you.
My two nanas, my Pākehā nana and my Māori nana are Māre kura. They are, mana wahine is a term when we throw that out there, but they would never get up and speak in front of you like this, but they save me, but not just me, all of my cousins and stuff have been impacted by them. So, yeah, they're amazing, and I'm lucky to be an outcome of them.
That's so beautiful. Todd, did you hear that? Lisa Tai, her husband took a back seat so she can fulfill. Just saying. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. We'll probably just take one more question, right, Narisha? So we'll take one more question. Awesome.
Kind of maybe young students for now, one of the great.
Okay, kia ora te whānau. First off, just want to say, my name actually, ko Xavier Murray Puhara tōku ingoa. Secondly, I think you guys could all be CEOs. Just going to throw that out there. So never doubt yourselves at the tepu or the tables that you're at. I guess that leads into my pātai. Do you see kind of a movement maybe in the next few years coming through of Māori and Pacifica-led businesses where people like yourselves just are like, you know what? I'm going to just go be a CEO of my own company and I'm going to go do it and everyone's going to come on the waka with us and we're just going to create a movement.
Well, I do own my own business, so yes. I agree, completely 100% agree. Man, the tables weren't there and I was sick of sitting at these square tables. I was like, man, I'm going to sit on the floor for kumete. And ever since then, it's the best thing I've done in my life.
Hey.
What's your thoughts, Dan?
Oh, yeah. I think because we had this discussion around we need to have a seat at the table, and if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. But then, we need to take that, we need to actually write the menus. We need to be in that space where we're setting the game, and to do that, we actually need to be entrepreneurs. We need to, and that's mana motuhake, eh? That's actually stepping outside of these realms and forging our own path. It's hard. I would say we are seeing it already, e hoa. We're seeing some amazing entrepreneurs, Māori and Pacifica, who are leading, and just amazing. And it's just inspirational to see in different areas too. Like for me, climate and the green economy is something that Māori and Pacifica can lead out and for the world. So there's a leadership piece there for us of showing the world how it can be done. And we're already starting to see the wakaro is there, in terms of we know how to do it. It's just clicking into place in terms of how we make it a thriving economy too. I will say though that ko matua or matua Dr. Manuka Henare talked about the economies of mana, and we don't have to fit into the system. Now I think and this is about writing the menu, flipping that economies of mana is a different way of thinking. And so just mihi to Dr. Manuka in terms of his thinking, and Kiri and Amber and the others who have built on that too.
I think I just want to start with the Māori economy is currently worth $70+ billion. So I think that's already happening. Like there's already these things going on, like these trusts that are just gunning it, going hundies. So these things are happening, so I think it's more discreet. We don't shout about it, we just get on with it. And so there's that sharing of that intergenerational wealth that is happening already. So I think we're leaders in that space. I don't know if I want to be a CEO ever. I'd like, well, the COO. I like to do the things in the background, maybe. I'll come work for you fellas, or for you.
I couldn't afford you.
But yeah, I think there's already movements. There's been movements happening for the last, how many years? 140? Over 100 years. So I think it's now, it's an opportunity for us just to help sweep the pathway there to make it a bit easier so you don't trip over, you don't get tangled in the weeds that are unnecessary. I think that's, I can't wait to see your generation, the next generation, just like everywhere, but also different colours, different sizes and shapes and richness of culture. I'd love to see that, but also acknowledgement of te tiriti as well. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
I totally agree. I think it's already happening. Within my space, like I tell anyone that comes to Deloitte, especially if you're Pacific, you don't need to be a lifer like me. Just come and get the experience, meet all the people, get all the training, and then if your calling is to go do your own thing, go and do it. But you have gained all the benefits and all the experience that this place has. And so I 100% support anybody that wants to do their own thing because it is so hard. And so now's an amazing example who's built an amazing business off her passion and something that's important to her and she's killing it. And so doing your own thing and being your own boss is harder than any of our jobs. Like, I'm in risk, and so I'm really risk adverse, and so it like scares me to think that I might not be able to like have a steady income and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, I'd love to be able to have the courage to do that one day, but I think it's amazing for anybody that has the courage to step out and do their own thing.
Kia ora.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. Definitely, I think in the next 5-10 years, just everywhere will be shifting, and we're going to be seeing a lot of change. Even now, I have a lot of friends that have started up companies, created companies, and now they're just in that growth phase of it. So it's just a matter of backing yourself and actually, if it's what you want to do, then doing it and going out there and getting it done. But yeah, for me, I think there'll be a lot more roles coming in. I always remember one of my lectures when I was here, they told me when you leave university or during your time of studying here, when you leave, the job that you're going to get probably hasn't even been created yet, or hasn't even been made, which is true. So, what you're kind of studying, or, if there's anyone studying here, what you're studying towards, as long as you got that base and you learn that skill, you can apply that skill to multiple roles. But it's just like, if you've got one role in your mind, that's great, and you can get it, but just know that out there's going to be so many new roles coming, so many different kind of roles for everyone to, like, whatever your skill set may be, to kind of get a hold of. So yeah, I think in the next 5-10 years, it's going to be, it's always forever changing, shifting. There's always, something new, AI, technology, things that are replacing, things that are moving. So yeah, for me, I think we're just seeing a whole lot more, or I'm seeing a whole lot more Pacific Islanders and Māoris come through. They're all going to uni now, or if they're doing trades and then becoming business owners that way too. So, it's like the more out there, the better. So, yeah. Cool.
Kia ora. Wow, that's amazing. We could keep going, but we're operating within the time and space of a non-Pacific Māori space and time. So with that said, just want to say a huge thank you to you all for the Talanoa, for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your gem, and to everyone else for taking the time to be here. You could have been anywhere else right now, but you chose to be here. So you're all going to do amazing things in life. I just know it. So what we'll do is we'll wrap it up. I'll give it over to the AUT team. Rachael from Lalotonga, you back? Oh, amazing. So I'll give it over and, okay.
Cool, thank you.
Don't love a microphone. Kia ora koutou, ko Fiona Hurd toku ingoa. My name's Fiona Hurd. I'm Associate Dean Academic for the Faculty of Business, Economics and Law, and it has been an absolute privilege to be here tonight and to listen. And I think that actually that's something that a lot more of us could do in this space. I also think that, you know, this is titled Our Voices at the Table, and when we think about the future of business, I think for me this really is the table. And you're right, it's not maybe a table, but certainly this is the future of Aotearoa, of business in Aotearoa, and it is conversations, it's kōrero Talanoa that we need to have a lot more. So thank you all. I'm really, really excited to see Johansson and Lisa, our amazing alumni, back with us as well. And thank you, Hermione and Dan, for joining us. And of course, to our wonderful facilitators as well. So on behalf of the AUT Business School, Business, Economics and Law, we invite everyone to come and join us for some kai and some kōrero just upstairs. So ngā mihi nui, kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora everyone, and I'll just close the space with prayer and then feel free for some informal talanoa upstairs. Okay, taulotu. Eik mawmafi, ka mau tamai I he wani. Eik o atulangi, tatau aneafi, ahoni mawaipe o taingata. Ko mau tuka ta whakamalo, mo whakawhetai. I ho kau mai mo mautolu I he talanoa o pooni. Pa kau kole atu ke whanonga atu mo mautolu ke maungahi api. Pa tāpakina kotoa, e toko taha kotoa pe I he lota whaleni. I hua whasisu kalaisi, ka mau eiki, amen.